Are you still stuck in the past wearing your traditional style belt? Well, let me show you something that I upgraded to some months back that completely changed the game for me, and I don't think I could go back. Thanks for sticking around. Now let's talk about this. Of course, everyone is familiar with your typical, buckle style belt with your holes and all that. And they work fine, nothing wrong with that. However, the newer style ratchet belts really do change the game. Now, this one in particular is made by Jukmo. There, if you can see that. And this was actually from Amazon, just an Amazon brand of belt. I mean, there's 100 different ones from 1,000 different companies. You can get these in any color and flavor you like. 100 different buckle styles, however you want it. But the best thing is this ratchet feature, which of course that's primarily what we're going to talk about here. But there are other advantages as well, which we'll cover. So to kick things off, obviously you're going to notice that it does have this plastic tooth track in there, which I've been wearing this belt every single day for just a touch over 7 months. And actually, you really wouldn't know it by looking, but you can see the condition of these teeth. They're all still in real good shape. Nothing is wearing down on them. Now, when I do release the belt, I am kind of careful about it. And I'll show you that too, which I definitely believe helps with longevity on something like this. But let's go ahead and take a look at the buckle itself here. So, you see how this works. We have the two little buttons here. Sorry about drifting out of frame there. And these buttons, when you push them forward, releases the mechanism down in there. And that mechanism is what catches into these teeth. So you just run it through, of course. And then what's nice about this over the old style of belt is you can just literally push it together, and once it starts engaging in that track, you're locked in, you're where you need to go. Whereas with the old style belt, how many of you have to sit there and you crank this thing back far as you can get it and finally make it in there, and then you're either too tight or too loose because you only have 1-inch increments on most of your regular traditional, let's say, style of belt. So when it comes especially to carrying, like a firearm or just more EDC type gear, 1-inch increments may not be enough. That it may be, like I said, too loose or too tight, and therefore it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to wear right. It's not going to do what you want it to do. So I would recommend giving one of these a try if you never have. But one thing I do that does help with the longevity, or at least I think it does, when you're wearing this and it's under pressure, of course it's pulling, and I don't just release it to where it drags on the teeth, which you could kind of hear. See, I don't really do it like that. What I tend to do is I'll pull it just a little bit to relieve tension, then I'll pull my releases. And of course it works much better when you're wearing it versus just holding it here in a camera. But it does work great. I love it. These things, they flip it around where you can maybe read it there. It does have length, that you cut it off to wherever you want. And then this buckle has teeth inside it there that you latch down. And I cut it off just a little bit, but it gives you a very broad range of adjustment there. So I just tried to keep it as long as I could. And when I crank it down to put it on, I mean, if you're not going to need to go super tight and super loose, and you can just leave the extra on there, no big deal. But, when switching between winter and spring, summer, whatever, you may have on varying amounts of clothing, so you may need this full range of adjustment, or you may not. Another nice thing about this is, as the day goes on, maybe things are getting a little tighter. You can easily loosen it up just a click or two and not lose all of the retention, but give you the breathing room that you need. Or, maybe you hit up the buffet for lunch and maybe had a little too much lunch. Well, this one's easy just to reach right down, boop, you pop it out a quarter inch or so, because these are about a quarter of an inch increment there of adjustment. So you can just reach right down and pop that dude out a little bit, whereas on this, again, you're gonna have to try to crank it and pull that back, and it's not very easy to do sitting in the seat of a car after you've just stuffed yourself. And speaking about using this belt every day for better than 7 months, I'm saying from the time I get out of bed until the time I go back to bed, I'm wearing this, because I'm always, carrying, always have my stuff on me. And this belt will easily support, 5, 6, even 7 pounds pretty nicely for, being a cheaper alternative, which, these go for, around 20 USD or so. And it was much more rigid when I first got it, so it is kind of wearing in, I would guess, but still a lot more rigid than the, 20 plus year old leather belt, which, if you need to tan some unruly kid's hide, this is going to be the better way to go over this, I would guess. But I don't think people really do that anymore, or at least it doesn't appear so, judging by social media and everything we see going on around us today. But this Jukmo brand, it has, like I said, held up very well. As far as I'm concerned, it almost looks like new. There is some, I guess you could call it wear, but, where like this track, you can kind of see the indentation, whereas when it first came, you couldn't see that. But, otherwise, as far as the stitching, the stitching is all still good, still in place, nothing's moved. I guess right there you can see there's maybe just a little bit of color change there, although that was probably from when they edge coated the belt, which is something I can't stress enough, though, how big of an upgrade this style of belt is over your traditional style of belt. It truly is night and day difference. And I haven't tried a bunch of these. This is the first one, in fact, that I've tried, because I wasn't sure that I'd like it, and there are a lot of other higher end companies out there, like say Core or Grip 6 or etc., etc., etc. But they are, a little more expensive, not outrageous, but more expensive. You could get 3 of these to 1 of those, more or less. So I thought, well, I'll give this a try, the old Amazon special, just to see if I even like it. And as it turns out, I don't like it, I love it. And I would like to get some of the more expensive ones to try those as well. So, hey Core, hit me up. But they're just outstanding. I don't know how long a person should need to go on about it, but this is an 1.5 inch size belt, which is pretty common. And it does say genuine leather on the listing on Amazon. However, this is from China, so is it actual leather. I don't know. It's holding up like actual leather, I can say that. You know, it's not like the fake pleather plastic stuff. I mean, I don't know. I'd say there's a real good chance this probably is made of real leather. But so far as I'm concerned, this Jukmo brand has held up great, you know, for, like I said, 7-8 months of good use, you know. And I mean, I would wear it, like I said, all day long, you know, whether I'm helping my buddy move or I'm mowing the yard or I'm just, you know, relaxing. Either way, I've got this belt on, and how well it has held up definitely surprised me, because for the cheap price it was, I was not expecting it to hold up and perform as well as it has. So, in conclusion, if you've been on the fence about these, and I'm sure everybody's, you know, seen them, heard them, it's not nothing new, it's just relatively new to me. But, you know, if you've been thinking about it or wondering about it, do it. Pull the trigger and do it. You won't regret it. You know, now I can't speak for every single belt on Amazon. You know, maybe a different one for a similar price maybe isn't as good. I don't know, or maybe they're better. That I can't tell you yet. But I would definitely recommend upgrading to this Ratchet style of belt. It'll just make your life so much easier. It's unbelievable how much difference just having that micro adjustable track really is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the look at this Jukmo belt. And I guess I should say this was not provided. I did spend my own money, which I kind of alluded to. So, you know, these are my thoughts and opinions, of course. With all that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right here. So if you would, please do all those YouTube things, you know, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that stuff. It does actually help, especially with smaller channels like myself. And with that, we will see you in the next one. Take care.